Hey everyone, this is the DreamItAlive show. I'm your host, Ash Kumra, co-founder of DreamItAlive.com. DreamItAlive.com is an online platform that helps you manifest, achieve, and create your dreams and goals using visualization tools, dream boards, and helpful personal development content. Come check it out at DreamItAlive.com. Today's guest is someone that really knows what it takes to make things happen. Elizabeth Saunders is the author of The 3 Secrets to Effective Time Management, How to Achieve More Success with Less Stress, which was published by McGraw-Hill. She's also a coach, a trainer, and she has an upcoming book, which we're going to talk about as well. And why we wanted to interview Elizabeth is because many of us have audacious dreams and goals. Many of us are clear that this is the time is now to go make it happen. But do we have the practical know-how or mindset tricks or habits or actions that could clearly make these dreams and goals actually be implemented? And Elizabeth is a master of these things. She's a self-proclaimed time management coach. I mean, any media source you can think of can validate this, whether it's Wall Street Journal, Forbes, Time, Harvard Business Review, and Portfolio.com, and many others can attest to the amazing expertise that Elizabeth has. So let's just dive into it and learn from this maven on how we can all master our time and really make things happen. So Elizabeth, how are you doing today?
I'm doing awesome. Thanks for having me.
Happy to have you here. So Elizabeth, why don't you first tell us a little about your how did you dive into this world of time management coaching?
So when I started my first business, which was not related to time management coaching, I had absolutely no work-life balance. I was an accidental entrepreneur. I was just so excited to have clients and have business. I'm sure you understand, like as someone that's owned many businesses, that I really didn't think about myself in the process. I was just like focused on my clients, serving them, getting things done. And I had no sense of like, when should I be working and when should I not be working, which somewhat worked for me. I got things done. I had a very successful business, but when it got to be about 2 years of this and I felt like I could never take a break without feeling guilty, I decided enough was enough. I hated this feeling of getting home late, 10:30, 11 at night, and feeling like I then needed to answer business email. So because of this, I decided to get my own life in order and decided to make sure to stop working when I reached 50 hours a week and give myself permission to relax without guilt on the nights and weekends. And after I had done this, my entrepreneur friends were like, Elizabeth, this is amazing. You should teach others. So they actually encouraged me to get into helping other people with effective time management.
Okay. Well, walk us through further. So what did you do to make this an actual living and practice and lifestyle?
In terms of my business?
Yeah.
Okay. So what I did is, personally, I like to lean into risk.
What does that mean? Sorry, I'm a little, I'm not as smart as you.
No, that's fine. I'm happy to explain. So what that meant for me is when I started my first business, I was 1 year out of college. And from the point when I started my first business, it was profitable and self-sustaining, including sustaining me in terms of being a source of income. So when I decided to go into this whole area of time coaching, I didn't just quit what I was doing before, which was doing marketing work and freelance journalism work for about 50 different magazines around the country. Instead, what I did is I continued to work with my current clients that basically I already was on retainer with, or had a working relationship with, where work would more or less come to me. And I gradually built up my time coaching experience and expertise. So initially that looks like the first few people I was coaching doing that for free, just to make sure I knew what I was doing, and got some testimonials. And then you have a few more clients and they pay you a little bit. And then over time, I got to the point where, for the past quite a few years, time coaching and doing training is my full source of income. But by leaning into that risk, so more or less not putting new business development effort into my first business and instead devoting all of my business development effort towards this new one, I was able to sustain income during that time of transition and successfully launch a second business, even though it took a few years for that to really be in a place where it could sustain me.
Okay, so what are some of the practical things that you did to make it finally a success?
So, big part of it was making it a priority to create content to get out there. So obviously I'm a huge advocate of effective time investment. That's what I do, what I talk about. And so when I was in that time of really wanting to build my brand and become a more successful time coach, I made it a monthly ritual to write guest post articles for big blogs. So things like Lifehacker or Harvard Business Review or 99U. And also to make sure that I was writing to my newsletter list. So that was just a routine I put in place, and I'm a huge fan of routines and talk about them in both my books. Also, what I did is I found sales training to be incredibly valuable. So I purchased some sales training for coaching just because I had never been trained in sales. And it's not a matter of doing anything manipulative or, without integrity. It's all totally in integrity, but it's just understanding how the process works of how people make decisions and how to structure the coaching program in such a way that you can help people be successful and run a successful business.
That's awesome. So let's talk a little about your first book then. So you've taken your time management coaching business, you became successful with your own business, you wrote a lot of articles. Tell us about the genesis of your first book, why it was needed, and why do you think it's been a success?
Yeah, so my first book, I really started on 2011 in terms of working on the book proposal. And to be completely honest, I was terrified of doing this. I am a very nice person. I'll admit I don't necessarily like negative feedback that much. And I am from the Midwest, so not a New Yorker. New Yorkers are wonderful. My brother lives in New York City. Nothing against that city, but I'm just not a New Yorker. So I had this terrible feeling that I would write a book proposal and no one would like it and I wouldn't get a contract. And I had a whole bunch of negative self-talk to overcome there. But I had a good support system around me and I kept at it and did end up writing my book proposal in 2011 and getting an agent in 2012 and subsequently a book contract and wrote a book in 2012. So things really sped up that year. And the reason I wrote that book and what makes me so excited about it is that I was able to take all the knowledge gleaned from working with clients all over the world and really come up with a methodology of, okay, here are the initial basics, the foundation that you need to get in place in terms of your emotions and your mental thought patterns. Then here are the 3 secrets, which are outlined in my book. And then finally, here's how to put it into action in terms of creating routines and having accountability. So for me, it delights my soul when I get emails or notes or Amazon reviews of people saying how much this book has changed their life. And it's a way for me to make a bigger impact beyond the people that I'll necessarily coach one-on-one.
That's amazing. Well, what are some, I'm really curious because you're right. I mean, people need to buy your book. People need to read your articles for learning those 3 steps that you talked about. What are the habits and rituals you do every day that keeps you kind of grounded and continuously doing the time management mindset that you have?
Yeah. So I'm very routine oriented.
Okay.
I have to admit, I was home for Christmas, which was great. So love my family. Shout out to them. But I was like a little off my normal routine. I have to admit, sometimes it feels like a vacation to come home because you're like, oh, I know how things are. I know what's going to happen next. But in terms of the routines that keep me grounded, every morning I get up and I Take some quiet time. So for me, that looks like reading my Bible, taking some time to write in a prayer journal. It's kind of getting centered, remembering I'm not God, but there is one, and I can trust him. Uh,
wait. Wow, that's funny. Sorry. I'm
it
not
just,
God, but there is one. That's
yeah,
funny.
exactly. And I can trust him. Well, because I mean, I don't know about other entrepreneurs, but I know for me, like, you just can put so much pressure on yourself, like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, there's so much to do, and how's it all gonna work out, and blah, blah. And then I just like read something, and I'm like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, God, yes, bigger than me, all is well. Like, I can move forward now. So that's how I start my day at breakfast. And then from there, I am a huge advocate of weekly and daily planning. So, like in my new book coming out, How to Invest Your Time Like Money, I talk a lot about how weekly and daily planning are the way to systematically decide about non-recurring activities. So basically what that means is all of us have some things in our life that need to happen every day, whether that's sleeping, eating, attending your daily meeting at work or weekly meeting at work, whatever that is. But then there's a whole bunch of other things, like maybe a dream that you want to accomplish or a business you want to start or whatever that is, that aren't recurring, and you need to find a place to put them in your schedule. So weekly planning is something I do every Monday morning, which helps me set my trajectory for the week and be clear on my big goals and things that need to happen. And then daily planning is a ritual I do each morning to help me recalibrate and say, okay, in light of the current reality, the emails that came in or the other things going on, what's most important now? So those are some of my key rituals. And then obviously I have routines around going to bed and connecting with my family and all that sort of thing. But if I had to choose three, it would be having my quiet time in the morning and then weekly and daily planning.
Okay. Well, I'm just curious. What you just said sounds so easy. Why are more people able to do what you just said?
That is a great question. And it's so true that a lot of people don't do this. So I'll break it down by the different parts. So number one, in terms of having a quiet time, for me, that looks like reading my Bible. For other people, I know a lot of people want to do meditation or just even take time to breathe or yoga or whatever that looks like. I think why that particular routine tends to be difficult for people is that it is a radical act of self-care that is not initially directly related to production. So in our culture, at least American culture, there's this huge emphasis on like production, like getting things done or pleasure. I'm like experiencing a lot of pleasure in this. Whereas things like meditation or maybe your quiet time or that don't always create pleasure, or at least there's not the anticipation of pleasure. They don't create dopamine in our bodies to make us want to do them, even though they truly are the things that make us most relaxed. And so I think for people to really embrace having that time to get centered requires that you have it as a ritual in your schedule where you just don't even think about it. And it's not something you have to like make yourself want to do. It just happens. So for me, knowing that the very first thing I do in the morning is go downstairs and have my quiet time just makes it happen without me having to like want to make it happen or find a time for it to happen. For people working on things like meditation, it's very similar. Like it can be very helpful to just say, okay, after I get ready for bed, I meditate for 10 minutes before I fall asleep. And so that's like one of the difficulties around like just taking that time to really get centered. In regards to daily and weekly planning, there's a few just very, very common things that I see that stand in the way of this. Number one is not knowing how to actually do daily and weekly planning. That's why in my books, I go into pretty specific detail about what that looks like. It seems like it should be intuitive, but for many people, it's not. So not having clarity is one. Number two is there are a lot of people who just think, well, things always change, so why should I plan? It's this learned helplessness of, well, unexpected stuff comes up or people email me all the time. So why should I bother to plan? Because my plans will always be ruined by someone, anyone, anywhere. And that really requires having a different understanding of what planning is and what planning can and can't do for you. So planning can help you have clarity on what's important. Planning can help you be proactive. Planning can help you to make good decisions about what you do or don't do. Planning can't ensure that everything will go exactly according to plan. Planning can ensure everything will get done in the time you want. And planning also can't ensure that unexpected things won't come up. And so people need to shift their perception of what planning does instead of like having these unrealistic expectations that it's an all or nothing. You plan and it goes perfectly, or there's no use in having a plan. And then finally, a very common thing that holds people back is they just think I'm too busy to plan. Like I've got so much going on. Like how could I possibly take time to plan? I just need to jump in and like get through emails as quickly as possible. And what they're missing is that when you take time to plan, it gives you perspective. And perspective is so critical because it then helps you to make the best choices. So for example, this week, I know for myself, like year-end finances are really important to wrap up, working on marketing my book, and then also looking through the final edited manuscript for my book. So even though it's a very busy week and I definitely can't do everything that I could possibly do, having done that planning gives me perspective and helps me say, okay, no, like I'm not going to respond to this email, or I'm not going to do this thing right now because these other things are more important. So that's a lot of what stands in people's way. And similar to how meditation or prayer or quiet time has such a positive impact, but so many people put it aside, planning is the same way, where if you can really get a ritual around being proactive and thinking things through, just your results can go off the charts in terms of how much you can get done and how good you feel about life. But it really requires that commitment to making it a routine so you don't just go with your feelings and run around like crazy.
Well, I'm going to ask you, hopefully this isn't a complicated question, but it's not very often I get to have people of your expertise on these interviews. How do you put it all together? Meaning prayer/meditation, doing the planning, and then effectively putting it down on like a goal setting tool, like a vision board. How do you put all three things together? And hello?
Yes, I'm here. And I just heard that you were saying, how do I put it all together in terms of prayer/meditation and then planning, and then we were connecting.
Yeah. So how do you put the three things down? Prayer/meditation, planning things out, and then putting it down onto an effective goal setting tool like a vision board or something else.
Yeah. So for each person, it's a little bit different. I'll explain my way, and then I'll explain a few other ways. So prayer meditation, for me, it literally looks like I have my Bible and journal on my bedside table. I pick those up as soon as I get up and put on my glasses. I carry those downstairs to the breakfast table. I use my multivitamin to prop up my Bible, and I look at it while I'm eating breakfast. So that's how that happens. For other people, what they do is they get up in the morning, or, as they're going to bed at night, and they have like a guided meditation app they listen to that happens. Then after I have breakfast, I come upstairs, get ready for the day, and then I sit down at my computer. I have a daily and weekly planning checklist that I go through using what is called a text expander. So a text expander is a tool that you can have on your computer where you have a short abbreviation that gives you a bigger, expands to a larger amount of text. So for example, if I type in WP, that will expand to have all the different things I want to do during my weekly planning. Or DP is all the things that need to happen during my daily planning. I look at that list, and then as I do each thing, such as like check my calendar, go through my voicemail, go through my to-do list, I delete them. And so then once those are done, I know they're done. With using like a vision board, I could really see that being helpful, particularly with like weekly or daily planning. Because you're not necessarily going to put on a vision board like call mom. I mean, if you want to, you can like put a picture of your mom on there, but like it's usually maybe a little bit bigger picture goals. So when you're doing your weekly or daily planning, you could go to your vision board, say, okay, here are the big things I'm trying to accomplish. What are the action items that are going to be aligned with these goals that I need to be sure to put into my calendar this week so I can get those done and be moving towards my vision?
I love that. Well, thank you for that effective formula. I selfishly asked that for myself, so
not a problem.
But I know a lot of people will gain knowledge from that. Let's talk. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say that's what I'm here for. So ask away.
Well, let's talk about your upcoming book and why you decided to write this, and give us a preview of what it's about.
I would be delighted to. So my upcoming book is called How to Invest Your Time Like Money. And it takes the principles of finance and applies it to time so you can have enough time for what's most important. And what this came out of is my first book, The 3 Secrets to Effective Time Investment, is an overview of lasting behavioral change. So I took all I knew about changing your behavior and effective time investment and applied it to this book, which was 256 pages long. However, what I found is a lot of people needed more guidance specifically on how to allocate their time correctly. So let's say they wanted to do weekly planning. They might say, okay, so in this first book, I learned how I do weekly planning. But what if I sit down to do my weekly planning and I'm not even sure what I want in my week or how this fits? And so this book answers that question. And in it, we start by really emphasizing the importance of taking control of your time in your life. So if you're someone that's had a victim mentality about time, just blaming everyone else, if you're someone who has this link between success and suffering, so like you don't see it as possible to be successful without having a crazy schedule, I go through, okay, how do you overcome that obstacle? And then also people who have trouble with defensiveness. So it may be that you say, yeah, I want to change how I invest my time, but then you never do. And it's because there's this underlying defensiveness and not wanting to admit that maybe things could have been different in the past. So I go through, okay, how do you work through all those issues? Then from there, we talk about identifying your time debt, creating a base schedule. So a base schedule is more or less your core weekly routines that are going to happen every day or every week that are just set and are just there. And then I talk about how to set up automatic time investment. So that's okay. We have this base schedule of, when you want to meditate, when you want to plan, when you want to answer email. How do you make that as automatic as possible? And then finally, I talk about maximizing your time ROI. So a few techniques to really take you to the next level once you've got the basics in order. And the whole point of this is that I really want to see people going for their dreams. So like you are helping people through your vision boards to really dream big and to want these great things and want to make a huge impact in the world. But the problem is if you have these huge dreams, but then you spend all your time answering email, you're never going to realize them. And the point of what I'm offering in this book is really to say, okay, how do you make time for these things that you say are so important instead of them constantly getting pushed aside?
That's awesome. I love that. Well, that seems like a great book. When's it coming out?
It is coming out in February of 2015. So officially February 17th is the release date, and that is being published by Harvard Business Review and available wherever ebooks are sold.
Awesome. Well, Elizabeth, thank you so much for being on this interview, and I can't wait to share this to the DreamItAlive community and personally use some of the things you talked about. Thank you for continuing to do the great work you're doing, and I can't wait to continue to support your endeavors in 2015 and beyond.
Why, thank you. I really appreciate it and look forward to us both achieving our dreams.
All right, have a good day.